EB just finished, I'm jumping right in. I didn't even give you guys a break. I don't have anything to add. We, obviously disappointed in last week's loss, but dusted off, got right back to work on Wednesday, and now it's focused on another opponent. So with that, I'll open it up.
You guys look like you're greatly improved from a year ago, and I thought you guys have stood up against some really good offenses. How do you look at your defense?
Yeah, I would agree with the statement, and but the one area that we want to get better on is the 2 games that we didn't finish. That's what kind of sticks in there. The Colts game where they come down. We thought we had them stopped, but we didn't, and then they end up scoring. And then certainly this past game. I mean, that's where. Listen, I think all defenses you need to rely on at the end of games, regardless of the score. I mean, if it's I always say this to the guys, even if it's a 3-possession game, if we allow points, we just let them back in. Because when you get to 2 possessions, all it takes is 3 plays, and you can lose. Touchdown, onside kick, touchdown. That's how quick it can happen. So I would agree with your assessment. I think the guys are playing good. I hope we get better, but I'd like to get better at the end of those particular games.
Are there things you're identifying in those situations? The Chargers got a touchdown late as well.
Yeah.
Are there things you're identifying, maybe some common themes that areas you guys need to get better on those particular situations?
Yeah, yes and no. Like if I remember the Chargers game, when they did score, did it get them? Was it a 2-possession?
It was 10 points and then it was
Yeah, then it was 3, so it was the same idea. Sometimes you look, are our guys getting tired? We don't think that's the case. We did play a lot of plays this past game. Not a common theme. I mean, there might be a mental error here or there. And listen, we got to give the offenses a little bit of credit too. The 3 that we're talking about are pretty good.
So you obviously have time to make a decision on Trent McDuffie and Willie Gay. Just from what you've seen of them on the field over these last couple of days, how are they looking to you?
Yeah, I mean, look, both of them look good to me yesterday. Now, I go off of what Rick, in Trent's case, I go off of what Rick says. And Willie, listen, he's a ball of energy, so he's going to be 100 miles an hour no matter what. But he's rusty. He hasn't been in there for a month, so he'll have to knock some rust off. But we need to do that. We need to get him out there and get rolling.
Steve, obviously on every scheme you got so many variables. How would you evaluate your ability to generate pressure with the 4-man rush, and what goes into? I realize this is a broad question, but what goes into your determination to when you have to blitz more? Yeah,
a little bit. A lot of things. Who's back there covering? Who do we have to cover? Does somebody need to be doubled? Because when you get into needing to double somebody and yet you want to have security of a post, I'm just talking football language, right? You start eliminating the number of guys you can bring on the rush, now it's down to 4. So, and yet there are times when we have to say, look, we're going to have to bring people and we're just going to have to cover. And that happened a couple of times in this past game. And quite honestly, on the first touchdown on Josh, I thought he was in great shape. He should have turned, and he knows that. Otherwise, if he makes that play, I mean, we're all pretty fired up, and that's the margin of error in this game. 4-man rushes, I think we'll continue to get better. In my opinion, what we need to do is to get into some longer 3rd downs, and that's a result of what you do on 1st and 2nd down, right? And we had been playing the run a little bit better in the last 2 games. I think it hasn't been as good, and yet we played last week a certain way. We actually knew that was probably going to happen, but we'd like to get with this team coming up now. We got to get back to playing the run and force them into the longer 3rd downs.
And what do you think George needs to work on?
Listen, I see Joe's over there with him all the time, and he's on the phone with Joe when he's at home at 11 o'clock at night. I mean, anybody that works harder at it. And we've put him in different places, and eventually we'll settle in and get him in a spot and get him going, get him in a little bit of a rhythm. He's got the rotation, but he's a young guy learning now, and I just think he'll just get better and better.
Steve, in general terms, what have you guys missed without Willie Gay?
He brings a lot of speed. But I will say this, I thought, and I think you guys all saw it, I thought Darius Harris did a nice job fitting in there. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses and their assets, and Darius brought his assets with how hard he plays and how cerebral he is, and he's in the right place, and he works well with Nick. Willie, you guys have seen Willie. He runs around, he makes explosive plays. He's dynamic, and he loves playing, so he brings a lot of energy, which we love. So I think he's going to bring all those things again.
Have you been seen enough from Trent yet in half a game to be able to identify what
Well,
Is that special?
I do think he's a good football player. I mean, I don't think we would have inserted him there as a starter from day one if we didn't feel that way. But you know, it's interesting. You never know how a young guy is going to react to injury. Now he's done all the right things. I mean, you talk to the trainers. I mean, he's terrific with all that. He's been fully in tuned. Yeah, I'll give you an example. Trent, look, he doesn't have to be at Saturday night meetings. You know, when he wanted to be at every meeting. So he'd drive over himself and then drive back home. I mean, that's the kind of guy he is. Hopefully the play will show up on the field too.
Coach, two things. One, in this day and age, this game coming up, how do you tackle the quarterback?
Legally?
Yeah.
Yeah, you try to tackle him legally.
What's legal? I mean, bad language can get you in
It's
trouble.
tough, yeah, it's tough. Listen, I said this before. All I can do is take the videos that the NFL sends us, and they send the good and bad ones, feed them to the guys, and say, this is how the rules say you're supposed to play, and go play that way.
And Garoppolo, what's the way to go after him? You know, when you're facing him,
Yeah.
wily veteran, what is the best way to get to him?
You know, I was saying this the other day. I've always had great respect for Jimmy. I spent some time quickly with him when I was with the Giants, and he came in for one of the 30 visits, and you know, I would be normally talking to defensive players, but we happened to sit at a table together, and I had a great conversation with him for a half hour. Really like him. He looked like when he was with the Patriots and he was a backup, you'd watch them all warm up, all those quarterbacks. They all looked like Tom. And Jimmy does too. You know, he sits there in that pocket, and he's tall, and he knows what he's looking at and reading, and he gets the ball out. He's one of those guys. I think he's one of those perfect quarterbacks that knows how to operate an offense in a drop-back system, and Kyle does some really good things with him. So just like we would do with a Patriot quarterback, you're going to try to get him off the spot. You got to try to get him to move his feet. He's athletic, so it's not like we're inviting him to run, because he can run. But that's how I see him.
Just a couple more, let's go Herbie next.
Coach, it seems like I ask you this question every week about a team's wide receiver. Last
Yeah.
week, Diggs and Gabe Davis. This week, what's unique about Deebo Samuel and what you need to be aware of?
That you gotta. Sometimes when he's out there, you have to consider him a running back, and sometimes when he's out there, you have to consider him a wide receiver because he's both. I've never seen a guy break as many tackles as he does, but he's unique. We haven't faced anybody like this before. The challenges that they have when they put him in the backfield and he's not in the backfield and they're moving him and they're motioning him, they're all challenging for us. So we're working on it, and hopefully we can find a way to limit his explosive plays, because they're really effective when he's explosive.
How does that,
Let's go Steve.
sorry, just one follow-up on that. How does that stress the defense when there's a guy like that? You're
Yeah.
never really sure?
You got to make some conscious decisions of what you want to do. Do you want to play man? Are you going to put a linebacker on him when he's in the backfield? Are you going to put a DB on him? If you do that, it's changing the structure of everything else you do. So we're going to pick our spots. I mean, obviously, that's why they do it. That's why they do it.
Steve, you mentioned Josh Williams.
Yeah.
I talked to him post-game. He said there were a number of plays that he wanted to get back. I think you mentioned one.
Yeah.
What do you tell him? I mean, he's a rookie, right? Like,
Yeah.
that confidence level isn't quite there yet.
Yeah.
How do you make sure he keeps it ready?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think he's just done this. He's one of the guys, Dave and I say it all the time, that he tries to do it exactly the way you coach it. And he's been doing that since he got here, and he just gets better and better. He just dusts off and moves forward. I thought he did that during the game. I expect him to do it, going into this game. And you're right, but you had to expect that there were going to be a couple of plays in there that weren't going to go exactly the way we wanted. But we lived through the growing pains, and hopefully, going forward, that helps us.
You might not enjoy the touchdown, but what do you enjoy most about being in one-on-one in a game scenario against one of the best quarterbacks that can potentially serve Josh moving forward?
Yeah, you talk about serving Josh Williams moving forward. Yeah, I mean, look, if you can, and I think we all saw it. He was in great position. We're talking about this one play, right? Because the other one was a catch and throw to 14. I'm not sure who would have defended that. But what we can take away is that he was stride for stride. He was in step. If he just turns a different way, it can be a different outcome. It'd be a lot different than if somebody just blew by him, or he couldn't do his work at the line of scrimmage and he was getting beat. But I didn't see that happening. So to us, that's encouraging.
Nick, and then Neil, and we're done.
Steve, on a 3rd and 13 deep in near the end zone,
Yeah.
what factors are you weighing in to where I'm going to blitz and throw the
Yeah, that was to me, that was a key play in the game. Because it's, I talked with you all before about the four most important series of the game, right? First and last of each half, and that was at the end of, first and last of each half, so it's 4 series. And we didn't win that one. It led to, and we could have given our offense really good field position. I put that on me. We have played that particular coverage differently, yeah. We were in something, checked out. If I had to do it all over, and we wouldn't have gotten out of the original one because I thought we would have been in better shape. But we could play the coverage better. I mean, listen, they made a great throw. The kid had a good route. But, listen, I can second-guess myself on that as far as pressuring. And I just thought we'd stop them on a 3rd and 13, get them to punt the ball and have great field position, and didn't want to take the risk of something else happening. But it didn't work out quite that way.
Okay, cool.
Everybody good?
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. Appreciate it.